Hey guys, hope you're doing well today. Dr. Shook here. Today I want to talk to you about something that I don't only have a few minutes today because I got to get home. It is 5:48 here, and I should have been home about 45 minutes ago. But what I want to talk to you guys about is is really this issue with thyroid antibodies that comes up quite a bit, and what it comes down to is a lot of people think that the thyroid antibodies correlate to or are a way to monitor their autoimmune thyroid condition. So if they have Hashimoto's, for example. And the reality is that, listen, I'm always open to learning from everyone. And if you can provide me with some information that would change my perspective and how I look at this, I would welcome it. But here's what as I understand it, this is how they should be used. Thyroid antibodies should be used to tell you whether or not a gene has been turned on. Okay, if the gene has been turned on, then your immune system is now attacking your body. It does not recognize you as you. Okay, you've lost self-tolerance, and really that is all. It tells you whether or not the gene has been expressed. Okay, and if that process has turned on. It doesn't correlate with severity. It doesn't correlate. So if your antibodies are very high, it doesn't mean that it's worse than if your antibodies are low. As a matter of fact, think about this for a second. We know that about 20% of people, 10% of people are seronegative, meaning that they have Hashimoto's, but yet there are no measurable antibodies in their blood. And the reason we know that is because on ultrasounds and biopsies, Hashimoto's can also be detected because it is of the type of destruction and scar tissue and things that are formed there. So what you'll find is that there are other ways to detect Hashimoto's, and you'll find that about 10% of people are negative, right? They're seronegative, so it doesn't show up in their blood, but yet they have Hashimoto's. So do the antibody levels correlate? Do they correlate with the severity of the condition? They don't. That's one example. Another example is that if you have white blood cells that are the total that's below 5 or around 5, it starts to get lower, you have less white blood cells, less B cells, right? B cells produce antibodies. So if you have lower, like this has been my observation and the observation of a lot of doctors that I know, when the white blood cells get around 5 or lower, you tend to have more of a likelihood to have a false negative antibody test. Okay, so because think about this, if the white blood cells, and in particular the B cells, produce the antibodies, and your white blood cell count is low or even suppressed, you're going to have less B cells, right? And if the B cells make the antibodies, you may not have a capacity to make enough to be sensitive to it. But guess what? When you start getting healthier, if your immune system starts improving and you have more B cells, you may test positive at a later date. So again, do the antibodies correlate with the autoimmune condition and the severity of it? Okay, I would argue no. And there's some literature out there that also shows us, for example, that just because think about this, what is an antibody, right? It is basically, the analogy I like to use is that it's kind of like a sticky note, right? It's this thing that floats through the bloodstream, and whenever it comes across something that it is designed to attach to, right, to stick to, it sticks to it. And basically what it does is it's kind of like a marker that the immune system uses to tag something that's foreign so that other immune system cells can come behind and destroy it. Okay, so it's a tag. And it basically has like destroy this written on it, right? So there's some literature out there that shows that just because you have antibodies in circulation does not mean that they're attaching to a tissue. So think about this for a second. You might have high antibodies, but yet there's no tissue destruction occurring because the antibodies are not adhering to tissues. And I need to find it. I need to find the literature. But as I recall, it was actually some literature that was in reference to turmeric and how turmeric can have this effect where it may actually prevent or decrease the antibodies' adherence or sticking to target tissues. So there's some potential benefit there. So again, here's the thing: do antibodies correlate with the severity of the immune system? Do they correlate with the severity of your autoimmune thyroid condition? If you have Hashimoto's disease, does it correlate? And everything that I've just shared with you guys has convinced me that no, it doesn't. And there's really no research that I know of that shows that it does. And if you just consider the things I said, there's no way it can, right? Because some people don't even make them. Some people have low white blood cells, yet the process is still going on. Some people have antibodies, but the antibodies don't adhere to the tissues. So is there tissue destruction occurring, right? It's only a problem when it attaches to the target tissues. And you're welcome, Karen. I'm glad to address it for you. Yeah, this is a big issue because a lot of times people want to get their antibodies checked as a way to try and monitor, are the antibody levels coming down, because they had them tested at one point in time, and you hear a lot of thyroid experts talk about it as if that is the fact, and it's really more complex than that. And I think they all know that. They just they just say it because well, I don't know exactly. I'd have to ask them, right? We'd have to have that discussion, so I'd really have clarification on their perspective. This is my perspective. I don't think that they do not correlate. If you show me literature that says it does, I still know there are instances that I just shared with you guys where they don't. The antibody levels don't correlate with the autoimmune condition. So I want to share that with you guys. I think that's really important that you understand it. Once if you get your antibody levels checked, and if they're negative, that doesn't mean you don't have Hashimoto's, right? There have been plenty of people that I've seen that definitely their history and everything makes sense that they do indeed, would suggest that they do indeed have Hashimoto's, yet there are no antibodies. And so you have to use some clinical judgment. You have to do the best you can. But this is my perspective is, thyroid, these antibodies do not correlate with the severity of your autoimmune condition. Okay. I hope this helps you guys understand it. If any of you guys haven't been on here with me, share with me. I like to look back through the comments. We had some people from Australia and all around the world on one of my live broadcasts the other day. Share with me where you're from. If you have some questions, just shoot. I'll try to answer just a few. I don't have a lot of time. I got to get home. Hey, Michelle. Michelle said that she was told her antibodies were negative, and then a second time my lab showed it at 1 for TPO. Okay, so here's the thing, guys. The antibodies, there are normal ranges for the antibodies. So TPO antibody levels are typically anywhere from 0 to 34. Now, above 34, we start thinking that's the abnormal response. But we believe that these antibodies do serve a purpose too. They're also potentially a cleanup service as helping us with a cleanup mechanism. So your cells of your body, most of them, not all, your thyroid cells do. They go through this process called mitosis, where the cells multiply and divide. And when they multiply and divide, there are some cells that are dying and some cells that are being made. So the cells that are dying, they're kind of like left over. So what happens to them? Like, how do we get rid of them, right? So there are processes that the immune system goes through that clean up and scavenge this. So these antibodies, these low levels, we think serve a purpose for a cleanup mechanism, right? So they're a way that the body can clean up some of these cellular debris from cells that die and that are sloughed off, okay? So regarding your antibody levels at 1, I mean, I would have to know the range, but, whenever we see TPO antibodies that get high, right, they're getting up there near that 34 range, that's, the higher they are, the more likely I am to think, yeah, this is autoimmune. A 1 for TPO, thyroid peroxidase. Now remember, there's two enzymes. There's not two enzymes. There's an enzyme, thyroid peroxidase, and there's a protein, thyroglobulin, that we look for when we're evaluating to see if there's an autoimmune process like Hashimoto's. So a TPO of 1 on my range, 0 to 34, would not be autoimmune. Okay, I just want you guys to know that. And there's different doctors that have different opinions on how to interpret this. I just try to go by what I've learned. And I want to explain to you guys the best I can my thought processes behind this stuff, right? So I hope that makes sense. Like, there should be some antibodies, some because there's a cleanup scavenging process, right? The immune system uses it that way. So I hope that helps you out, Michelle, to understand my perspective. Linda, how do you know if you're having an autoimmune flare? You really don't, guys. There's no way to like quantitatively evaluate that. At least theoretically there are, like you can measure cytokines, but you don't really know if you're having a flare. I mean, if you have, rheumatoid arthritis and your joints are swollen and red and it's worse, yeah, that's a pretty obvious sign that you're having an active attack. I mean, if your thyroid, with Hashimoto's, not everyone experiences soreness, but some people will have swelling and just tender to the touch. That's more significant. I mean, if you're more symptomatic, that's a good indicator as well. But it's not. It's some people can have autoimmune processes going on and they're not even aware of it. So it's really kind of difficult to know what that's what you have to do is you have to try to identify, am I autoimmune first of all, and then if you're autoimmune, then you have to start investigating what is the immune system reacting to, and try to remove those things from your diet. If they're pathogens, different types of infectious, bacteria, fungal infections, viral infections, parasitic infections, stealth pathogens like spirochetes, things like Lyme, like that, then you want to obviously kill those things, get them out of your environment, out of your body. If they're chemicals, you remove them from your body, and you take the things away from the body, you remove the things that the body's reacting to, and then you work to repair the damage that's been done. And that's the theoretical model, right? You identify, you detect first what's driving the immune system, you remove it, however that is, diet, infections, chemicals, and then you repair it. That's my model anyway. So I try to use very good quantitative information, if possible, to identify these things. So really, we're looking at advanced laboratory testing to really dig and put numbers, quantitative numbers, on the things that are triggering an immune response. We don't always have that as an option, and that's okay. It's a financial investment to get testing done. It is, and the tests that we use are just not covered by insurance, and that's a whole nother discussion. I talk about that a lot in some of my other videos, and this idea of medical necessity, and there's the guidelines and all that stuff. It's a problem, and I'm aware of it. Everyone's aware of it that practices this way, and it's going to change eventually. But right now, we don't have that. So if you don't have resources at your disposal to get testing, there's a lot of people that don't, and that's one of the reasons I record these videos too, is to help you guys understand how to help yourself. And we're going to do the thing I always do in my videos in just a second, and that's what we're going to talk about, like what do you do first, right? So okay, so if you don't have if you can't get testing done, right, then what you need to try and do is you need to try to go through the logical kind of approach that I would use with someone to help them kind of work through these things, right? So we would put what I would do with someone that didn't have any resources, or they just want to try something on their own. Maybe they do have resources, but they want to try something on their own. I would suggest that you try dietary, lifestyle, and some temporary nutritional supplementation approaches for a few months, for 1 to 3 or even 6 months on your own, and see how you do. That's a lot of time, but it's an alternative if you can't get some testing and things done. So that's why one of the reasons we created like the 6-week Hashimoto's transformation program. If you guys are interested in that stuff, you just post a comment, we'll share with you. But you can try like autoimmune paleo diets. All right, so let's start. Let's go. This is really important that we do this on every broadcast here. So some of you guys watch me. So what's the first thing I'm going to have you guys do if you've got an autoimmune condition and we're trying to support your health and your autoimmunity? What's the first thing I'm going to suggest to have someone do? Is anyone know what we do? Dia, I'll share that with you in a second on the nutritional supplements. Gina, I'll talk more on Graves. I can't do it today. Linda, you win. Gina, great work. Diet, exactly. Diet. Number one's diet, right? So number one's going to be diet. So something like the autoimmune paleo diet is a reasonable place for a lot of people to start. We've got our own program that follows some of those principles, but it gets into a lot more stuff. It helps you better understand supplementation you might need, lifestyle recommendations, and gives you this framework, kind of holds your hand. We have a support group and stuff. Trish, an elimination diet's a reasonable way to do it too. I primarily like AIP for most people I start with, but there's not one thing or one diet or anything that's best for everyone. I mean, we are definitely unique. Trish, you could try no gluten. That's a great thing. If someone says, hey, you know what, there's no way I just want to eat meat, vegetables, and some fruit and water. And if they don't feel like they're ready for that yet, then they could try gluten. It's all relative, guys. Like, how bad are you, right? Like, what's happening to you, and how motivated are you to make change? So for some people, you know, maybe just going no gluten, no dairy, no soy, things like that would be a reasonable place to start. Those are very common reactions. So that would be a reasonable thing to start. Yeah, Kimmy, if you got a doctor that's telling you similar to this, I would agree with that. Randy, you're right on. Change diet. Yeah, Carolyn, I don't like nuts and seeds on AIP at first. Right? That's something they can have saponins and lectins, these things in the skins that are kind of like what we'd consider like anti-nutrients, and they can actually irritate the gut lining. So I typically have people remove those initially. I mean, they're good foods, right? There's a lot of good foods that we take out, but that's just because they can have reactivity, and so we want to see kind of what's going on. Yeah, I know it's not easy. It's not easy. So number one's going to be dietary changes, guys. That's what you're going to do first. Number two, you might want to add in some nutritional supplementation. A lot of you guys have been asking about nutritional supplementation in some of these broadcasts, and we get asked a lot about it. And one of the things that I did was I created. Let me see. How can I explain this as simply as possible? Bye. See ya. Andy's leaving. She's my staff, so she was hanging out here doing some things. So what I've done is I've put together like a workshop that so we use in practice. I use assessment forms to help get information. I have my patients and distance consulting clients fill out these assessments. They're symptom based. They return them to me. I look at the assessment. It helps me to evaluate different areas of their body, different physiological processes that may be occurring, right? So it helps to give me information so that we don't have to have a 4-hour conversation, right? They can fill out some stuff, I can review it, and it helps me to better understand what's going on. So what I did was I've taken those assessments and I've made them available to people so that you can complete it, and then I actually do a workshop where I use my whiteboard. I think the workshop's probably 30 minutes or so long, but I walk you through each category of that assessment form so you can say, oh, this is related to my colon. Oh, this is my small intestine. Okay, this is blood sugar. This is low stomach acidity. And then on the other side, there's adrenals and thyroid and hormones. And then what I did was I help you kind of understand the way I would look at it, right, by walking you through the workshop. And then what I have is, I work with people all over the country and in different countries, and I had to figure out a way to utilize nutritional supplementation distribution. It was really kind of hard because I do recommend nutritional supplements, but only temporarily. I'm not a fan of taking them long term. I don't think that that's necessary. There are cases, and there are arguments to be made about hollow food or deficient minerals, vitamins, and minerals in our foods. Absolutely. But what I did was I use an online nutritional supplementation dispensary. It's called FullScript. And so what I did was I made this assessment form available, I teach you what it means, and then I've created categories within FullScript so that you can log in to my private dispensary that I use to write supplementation prescriptions for people, all the people I work with, and you can actually kind of go through and say, okay, category 1, and I've got a category 1 that says associated with the colon, and I've got basic, moderate, and comprehensive supplementation approaches. Now, here's the thing, guys. If you have an assessment form that's full of problems, right? You don't want to get just a bunch of supplements. Usually about 6 is going to be the max. I've got some people that are definitely taking more than that, like different types of supplements. But sometimes you just have to break it into little chunks and kind of work through things one at a time. And typically a good place to start is with diet and your GI tract function. So I'm just going to tell you, like diet, some foundational supplementation, which is one of my categories. That's like a good multivitamin, vitamin D, essential fatty acids, right? Like fish oils and stuff. Those are very good for most people. Those are things you got to have a lot of times to have good hormone sensitivity, blood sugar regulation, immune system function, and you need a multivitamin to fill in the nutrient potholes to make sure that normal chemistry can occur. Okay, so that's a good place to start. And I have inside of my nutritional dispensary, I actually have a I have a category called Foundational Protocol. Start here. It's at the very top of the page. So that would be the first things. And then let's say you're having digestive problems, like maybe you're having some colon symptoms, you're bloating when you eat, maybe you eat and you feel like your food sits in your stomach and it sits there like a rock. Well, in that case, I might say, well, it's probably a reasonable thing to consider digestive enzymes, to consider something like a supplement like that has glutamine. Like I use Endozen quite a bit. It's a supplement that contains glutamine and zinc carnosine. There's lots of good supplements. I really like Apex Energetics as a company a lot. They have good stuff. There's a lot of great companies out there, but they're so what I have you do is just kind of you walk through and you look at your problems that you're having, and you can just kind of pick a few things. Usually, foundational protocol and digestive support are a perfect place for you to start. So if you guys are interested in like going through that little workshop, all you have to do is I will provide a link somewhere. I'll provide a link somewhere for you guys. I really need like one of my staff, which we're going to start doing, someone on here as I'm talking to you guys so that they can post responses to your questions, because I can't, and I definitely don't have time to do it like when we're finished. I got to go home and I got to see my kids. So and my wife. I want to go spend some time with them. Papaya enzymes. I saw someone said something about apple cider vinegar for acid reflux due to, that is Tammy. Hey, Tammy. Vinegar for acid reflux due to low stomach acid, and I think from Hashimoto's. Okay, apple cider vinegar, guys, can be very helpful. And you think about this. A lot of people say, well, it's fermented, so it's got all this good bacteria. It's got all these great nutrients produced as a result of the fermentation process, right? And I wouldn't argue with that at all. I will tell you that I think that the benefit from apple cider vinegar is really one primary thing, and that is the fact that it is an acid, right? So let me give you a scenario here. I had someone that came in and they said, you know what, I've been taking apple cider vinegar every morning because a lady at my church told me that she started taking it and she had rheumatoid arthritis, and now she has no rheumatoid arthritis. Like she's healed from it. It's like this miracle cure. And so let me explain to you a very reasonable and likely mechanism for this lady's improvement with her rheumatoid arthritis, okay? So she takes apple cider vinegar every morning. Well, what does that do? It acidifies the stomach. It gives you more acid. And what does more acid help you do? More acid helps you to break down proteins and food that you eat. So what it also does is the acid, as it concentrates in the stomach, when it moves into the first part of the small intestine, because that's where it goes next. It's in the stomach and then it goes into the small intestine. The higher acidity is probably triggering a stronger release of pancreatic enzymes and a stronger contraction of the gallbladder that releases bile salts into her food as it's leaving the stomach. So what's happening? She's breaking down and digesting food better, and she's extracting more nutrients from the food. But the very likely mechanism behind her rheumatoid, because remember, what drives autoimmunity? What are the primary things? Well, what we see from a functional medicine perspective, and what I've learned, are partially digested food proteins, okay, and that should ring a bell because this is what she's improving. Pathogens, like different types of infections, and environmental chemicals. So what she's doing is by increasing that acidity, she's essentially improving her ability to break down and digest proteins in food, and by breaking those proteins down much more thoroughly than when her stomach acid was not high enough, when it was too low, she's now giving herself some immune protective benefit, right? It's because now she's not getting exposure to some of these partially digested food proteins because they're being digested better due to the apple cider vinegar. So that's really the mechanism behind the apple cider vinegar. That's really one of the reasons, like, we want to look to see if you have low stomach acidity, right? And you can use apple cider vinegar, but some people don't do well with it. And but that's one of the things behind it. So let me see. I think I got one more here. Linda, do I know about MTHFR? Yes, I do happen to know about. I know about genetic SNPs. I've done training with Ben Lynch. I've been through some of his training. If any of you guys know him, he runs Seeking Health. It's a fantastic organization. He's a great guy. He's primarily a researcher. He's a naturopath, and he's brilliant. He's been helping educate doctors of all professions from all professions on genetics and genetic SNPs. I'm a big fan of his. Really, really support him a lot. So I've taken a lot of his classes. I've learned Eric Balkovich is also someone that's taught me a lot about methylation and genetic SNPs in general. So you got to understand, guys, no one, even those guys, even the people that study it every day, no one can interpret a full 23andMe panel. No one knows exactly what all these different SNPs mean. We do know some things that we can do, but to take that raw genetic information and put it into a report and then prescribe someone supplementation based off of it is not really how it should be used. I'm just going to tell you, because we don't even know if the mutations that you're seeing aren't being compensated for later, right? Like, so there's another SNP that's compensating for it. We don't know that. Here's what we do know. We do know that for any of that stuff to really matter, you have to do everything right first. You have to eat right. You have to get enough sleep. You have to you need to be doing some really focusing on stress management. I met someone fascinating. Thomas Izdebski. Cool guy. I met a great guy this weekend. Brilliant. And he was telling me about this research paper that was done. I can't remember the guy's name. I think last name was Benson. I gotta get that from him. But they did research on meditators, people that, like, basically lifelong meditators. They took people that meditated. They looked at their genes, and then they looked at people that didn't meditate, and they looked at their genes, and then they had people that did not meditate go through like an 8-week meditation course, and they noticed that it had changed about 500 different gene expression, which is huge. And we know that the number one things that are going to really mess up your methylation is going to be, which the MTHFR is, guys, for you guys, I'm sorry if I'm talking and you're like, what is he talking about? Linda asked me, what do you know about MTHFR? So MTHFR is referencing an enzyme that helps you basically convert B12 into a methyl form, a form that's usable by the body. So MTHFR is an acronym for a mouthful. It's methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase. It is a mouthful. It's an enzyme. Okay? So some people have these gene uniquenesses that we call SNPs, and the way you would spell it is like SNP, and it means single nucleotide polymorphism. It's just a gene uniqueness. That's what, 23andMe, like if you do that test, that it can show you your genetics. It sequences your genome. It shows you these SNPs. And if you have certain variations of the genes that code for, so they code for the MTHFR enzyme that I just mentioned, you can have a deficiency or an inefficiency of making it, and you may not convert B12 well to the methyl form, which is what the body needs to use, and that can interfere with methylation, metal detoxification, liver function, you name it. It's really important, and it can affect a lot of your other chemistry. So it's really important. That's the most popular one. So methyl tetrahydrofolate reductase, MTHFR genes and SNPs. There's a lot of people. Look, guys. There are a lot of businesses like exploding all over the internet, where they sequence these things and they run reports and they're like, we're going to tell you the diet that you need, and we're going to tell you the supplements you need based on your genes. And I'm just going to tell you, like, that's not how I've learned it, and that's not how a lot of the experts would say you would ever want to do it. You want to look at the SNPs, and then you want to see how is the gene being expressed. So you would order a test, like an organic acids test. You would look at that test, and or methylation panels, which we can't even run all the different intermediate hormones and chemicals that we're looking at here. And you would want to basically take a picture of the biochemistry, and you would write your levels in that you get from your report, like your organic acids test. You would write where the SNPs are, and you would look to see if in the chemistry is anything backing up or is anything being sped up due to a genetic SNP. But guys, you've got to do all the basics first, every bit of it. And you need to be sleeping, you need to be doing stress relief things, you need to be things to reduce stress, whether it be breathing, heart math, biofeedback, you name it. You got to be doing things to reduce stress, because it influences and affects your gene expression. Okay, so it's really, really important. So yeah, I know a little bit about it, Linda. I hope that helps you out. I know I have a life. I got to go, guys, on that note. But I really appreciate you guys. You get a chance. If you haven't been on here before, definitely post and tell me where you're from. If you have questions, guys, post them. If you want to know about any of the things I've talked about, and we've talked about so many different things, let me know, and I'll try to help you out. If you want to go through, if you want to take an assessment, watch my workshop. It's about 30 minutes, and understand like the different areas of your body where you might need some nutritional support. Just post it and let me know. And then if you're interested, like in our transformation or Hashimoto's program, I'll post a link so you guys can learn about that. We have a giveaway where we give it away every month. So at the end of this month, we're going to give away 2 of our Hashimoto's programs to someone. But I'm going to tell you guys a secret. And since there's 62 of you on here, I'll tell you guys. When you register to get it free, right now what we're doing is we give people an opportunity to get it for like $49. Really $49. And normally, like that started out, guys, it's like 10 modules. I seriously worked hundreds of hours, and I put everything I would really do with someone initially. Like if I didn't have a chance to really work with them clinically, what would I consider and what would I teach someone? And I put it all into these guidebooks and video walkthroughs of the guidebooks with everything that I could possibly think of, and try to make it as concise as possible. So I put lots and lots of time into it, and has been available and for $495. So like right now, you get it there if you want, but no worries. You can do a lot of stuff on your own, guys. You can do AIP diets. You can do a lot of things. There's a lot of stuff available to you, but that's there too if you're interested in it. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else. If you guys have any other questions, let me know. But please do me a favor. You guys know when I talk to you that a lot of people have no idea about the things we talk about, right? A lot of people are not really sharing. Well, I don't know. They have good intentions, but they're not sharing this information. And what's really important is that people know, like, where do I start? Because you can get books and you can look online, and it's a rabbit hole. You go down it and you don't really know what to do. You just come out more confused. So I try to give people clarity on, like, look, let's boil it down. Let's say, where do you start? Quiet the noise. Try to figure out where to start, and begin there, right? So do me a favor, share our videos and stuff with people so that they know they can learn, more about how to help themselves. Okay, and please do like and give me some hearts and love if you appreciate these. I really appreciate you guys. I appreciate you being on here. And if there's anything that I can do to help you, please reach out to us and let us know. You guys, if you don't know this, I do like one per day. I only have time for one a day, but I do one free 15-minute consultation per day. That's the way we do it as a community service. You can ask anyone that I've ever talked to. It's not a sales pitch. I give you everything I possibly can and ask for nothing in return, just like I do here. Because when you do that, everything else works out. So appreciate you guys a bunch. Hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. You're welcome for my time. I appreciate you guys too. I don't have any books. There's lots of books out there. Isabella Wentz writes a good one. Amy Myers has written a good one. Datis Karazian has written a good one. There's tons of great thyroid books out there. Lots of good people out there trying to help you guys. So I appreciate you a bunch. If there's anything I can do for you, let me know. You're welcome. You're welcome. I appreciate you guys too. Thank you for the hearts and the love. And I'll try to see you guys tomorrow and talk about another topic. But I appreciate you. Have a good night. Hey guys, Dr. Shook, thank you for viewing our videos. I hope they help you out. If you want to, just subscribe to our channel somewhere here. You can watch a video that YouTube's actually selected for you, so hopefully it'll help you out. If you need any other information or resources, just look in the description. We've got links to our website, to our 9 lab test guidebook, and everything else that we do. I really appreciate you, and I hope you guys have a great